Racing Conversations. He is the one and the only Randy Moss from NBC Sports joining us here on the Bostonian versus the Book. Randy, good to see you again, my friend. Thank you for coming back. How are you?
Let me get in the sun here. This is where the sausage is made, right here in the NBC compound, right behind me and all over here. So we got a cast of hundreds here to make it happen. But I didn't bring my hat. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I should have known.
You should have known. That's part of the show. But you look amazing. You got to make sure you don't get sunburnt. That's going to be my first question. Good to see you, sir. What's the weather going to be like on Saturday? Because we've been talking to horse guys, and I know horse guys, it's very important to know whether the track's going to be muddy, whether horses can run, if there's going to be weather. Is there going to be weather as far as right now? Because it looks beautiful there right now.
Well, it's hard enough to handicap the horses. You got to handicap the weather too. And the weatherman right now, it seems to change every day. But right now, they say that it's supposed to rain Friday night, maybe even Saturday morning. And here's the thing about that. Churchill Downs has always had a reputation over the years as being one of the fastest drying dirt strips in America, right? That it could rain buckets in the morning and it could still be fast by Kentucky Derby Day. Well, in response to the controversial horse deaths last year, Churchill Downs has changed the composition of their dirt racing surface. It's completely different than it used to be. And it has a lot more clay than it did in the past. Clay retains moisture. So the fear now is that if it rains on Saturday morning, let's say, the track may not dry as quickly before the Kentucky Derby as it might have in the past. So you might have a better chance to have to deal with a muddy racetrack in 2024 than you did in, the previous 20 years before.
What does that do to the Oaks if it's going to be raining during the Oaks? How different of a track would it be, not just for the Derby on Saturday, but on Friday, if it is raining? How difficult is that handicap?
It'd be substantially different and very impactful on the outcome of the Kentucky Oaks, almost certainly if that's what happens. But here's the problem. Today, 2024, horses run less frequently than they used to back in the day. It's not uncommon at all to see horses in the Oaks, horses in the Derby that have run, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Whereas back in the old days, that meant that a horse had some, major problems if they only ran that few times. And consequently, a lot of these horses haven't seen a muddy racetrack or a sloppy racetrack. So you don't know. You don't know how they would handle it. You can look at pedigree, you can look at running style, but it's really just sort of a guess. So I think you're better off, unless a horse has proven that he or she doesn't like an off racetrack, then I think you're better off just sort of backing that out of your gambling and focusing, just pretend that it's a fast racetrack.
Well, can we pretend with the horse in Forever Young that a horse from over there can come over here and win, because they have not been able to do that? Can you talk about Forever Young in a little bit and its chances, in your opinion, of winning this big race on Saturday?
The underlying component to Forever Young in the Kentucky Derby is that not just in America, but around the world, wherever there's international races, whether it's Saudi Arabia or Dubai or Hong Kong or in Europe, you name it, horses from Japan have become dominant. They have gotten better and better and better over the years. They bought up Kentucky Derby winners and brought them to Japan. They brought up some of the best broodmares in America and brought them to Japan. And so consequently, these horses need to be taken very seriously. And it's just a matter of time now that the Japanese are beginning to target the Kentucky Derby until they're successful. Maybe this will be the horse. I mean, Forever Young is 5 for 5 lifetime. He's run as fast as all of the leading Kentucky Derby contenders except Fierceness. He's run at 5 different racetracks. He's been close to the lead. He's been off the pace. There's a lot to like about him. The big questions that we really don't know, how much would the travel impact this horse? 7,000 miles to get from Dubai to Germany, from Germany to Chicago, 42-hour quarantine in Chicago, 6.5-hour van ride from Chicago down to Louisville, 5,000 miles to get from Tokyo to Saudi Arabia, where he ran in the race before Dubai. That's 12,000 miles total in travel over just the last couple of months for this horse. And you don't know. That's an X factor. You don't know. The trainer actually came out and said after the UAE Derby that when the horse flew 5,000 miles from Tokyo to Saudi Arabia, quote, he didn't travel well.
Uh-oh.
Now, he didn't let that slip until later. So we don't know how he's doing. They're not really, they're not really coming with stuff like that right now. But he's very talented horse, very talented.
So this is the draw. In the 2 slot is Sierra Leone, which is everyone's favorite. We talked to people a while ago. We know people that have very big tickets on Sierra Leone. What do you make of the draw for the horse in the 2 slot? And do you still think that come post time that Sierra Leone will be the favorite?
I think Fierceness will be the favorite. Tons of respect for Sierra Leone. Remember this going forward. The post position draw is the most overrated part of Kentucky Derby week every year.
Wow.
We used to do a 1-hour show on ESPN and then later on NBC, the post position draw. Worst TV in the history of sports broadcasting. Boring. It's like watching paint dry. It didn't mean anything. And, I was always told by the producers, Randy, you can't start the draw telecast saying that the draw is the most overrated part of Kentucky Derby week. You can't say that. People will turn it off. So when you just showed that list of post positions, right? There were really only 2 horses in which the post position really makes any difference at all. Sierra Leone is just fine from post position number 2. He's going to drop back. Okay. If you're a horse that ran in mid pack, it might have an impact, but he's not. He's going to be in the last 3 or 4 early in the race, which is the way where he wants to be. The number 1 horse, the horse that drew the rail, Dornoch, that's going to impact the race because it makes it almost certain that we've already talked to the trainer. This is what they want to do. It makes it almost certain that the jockey is going to try his damnedest when the gates open to put Dornoch on the lead, which is going to ramp up the pace just a little bit. Okay. So you'll have Dornoch and Track Phantom. And if all goes well for the favorite Fierceness, he's sitting right there. And Fierceness is the only other horse in there that really that created any sort of drama at the post position draw. Because with his running style and the other speed in the race, if he was down on the inside, it would not have been advantageous. But he drew perfectly. He drew post 17, which is ideal. There's been a scratch now of Encino, so that'll move him into post 16. If you could pick a post position for Fierceness, you'd want him way out there.
So post position isn't important, but
no.
How important is
overrated?
Well, that's good, and that's why we love you, because you just tell the truth and just say it as it is. But I've been listening to guys in the books for years talk about post positions, and 17's never won, blah 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 blah. How is this race going to play out based on the lead-up races? We talked to somebody yesterday about, do you value one of the lead-up races more than others, like the way they ran at Santa Anita or the way they ran down in Keeneland or the New York races? Is there something that you personally or you've heard people go, that horse ran or those horses ran really good here, that translates to the Derby better?
No, it just all depends on the individual performances and not the venues, right? Santa Anita is typically one of the very best venues in terms of producing Kentucky Derby winners, Derby success. But this year, Bob Baffert horses can't run in the Kentucky Derby. He dominates out there. This year, the Santa Anita horses at the Kentucky Derby Stronghold, the winner, is probably going to be 25-30 to 1. He's not really going to have much of a chance. In many years, I would say probably the best dress rehearsal for the Kentucky Derby would take place in Arkansas at Oaklawn Park. And the reason is that it's usually a big field, right? There are a big crowd at Oaklawn. They'll have 60,000 people at the racetrack on Arkansas Derby Day. There will be fans in the infield, just like at the Kentucky Derby, not as many. But they get sort of a little mini replica of what it's like on Kentucky Derby Day to run at Oaklawn Park. But that's only a small advantage. There's really not a big advantage there. It just depends on, the best prep this year was the Florida Derby. Fierceness, won by almost 14 lengths. He ran a gigantic speed figure. He won. It's the largest winning margin in the history of the race. He verified the way he'd been training in the morning, which had been just like amazing. So it just can change from year to year.
Randy, why does the Derby hold such a special place in American sports still after all these years, after all these races? The pageantry is still every year beautiful, and people are dreaming of one day being able to be at Churchill Downs.
Yeah, we're such a society now that revolves around the major event. I don't follow golf that much. I used to work for the Golf Channel a while back, but I don't follow golf that much until you get to the U.S. Open or the Masters. I don't have a favorite NBA team. I live in Minnesota. I don't even follow the Timberwolves that much until you get to the playoffs. Then I'm locked in. I don't follow Major League Baseball that much until you get to the playoffs and the World Series. I think a lot of people feel the same way about horse racing nowadays, right? Horse racing used to be one of the big three sports way back in the day. Baseball, boxing, horse racing. Everybody followed horse racing. It was the only place you could place a legal gamble.
Yep.
In America. Now you got casinos on every corner. You got sports betting. You got online betting, right? There's a lot more competition. So horse racing is in order in terms of people's favorite sports. But when it comes to Kentucky Derby Day, Derby parties everywhere, the tradition, people, gravitate toward that, dressing up. And it is just, the Derby is just as important as it was 50, 60 years ago in Americana, right? Within our sports culture. And it's just because it's the big race. Everybody wants to be part of the big race.
And if you ever hit a ticket in the big race, like I hit Rich Strike a couple years ago. Yeah, I hit the try, sir. I hit the all button in Vegas.
That's right.
Yes. So I'm not having any more kids, but if I have a dog, and then I'm going to name it Rich Strike. Is there a long shot or two that you are looking at? Because I'm going to ask you, it sounded like you like fierceness a lot, but are there a couple 25 to 30 to 1 shots that people watching the show should pay attention to, sir?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple. There's a horse called Honor Marie, who is training exceptionally well. He showed as a 2-year-old. He loves Churchill Downs. He ran his best races at Churchill Downs. He's coming off a really good second place finish in the Louisiana Derby that should have him, really ready for a peak performance. And I think he's got a great chance to at least finish, third, fourth in the Tri or the Supers. And who knows if Fierceness lays an egg, and if Sierra Leone gets in trouble or whatever, then that horse could even have a chance to win. The other one would be a horse called Domestic Product, who is Sierra Leone's stablemate in the Chad Brown stable. He's the trainer. Big, beautiful black horse that worked with Sierra Leone. They worked side by side in the final major workout for both horses for the Derby. And Domestic Product held his own. He looked very good. I think he's going to improve. And he fits right into that thing you're talking about there, that sweet spot, 20 to 30 to 1.
Mm-hmm.
Any live dogs? Anybody that's like a 10 to 15, like someone just a touch? Is there somewhere in that range a horse like that? Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one. Just a touch. He's, again, like I said before, one of the things that makes the Derby so unpredictable now compared to way back in the day is that horses run so much less often. Just a Touch has only had 3 starts. Horses will, and human athletes too, but the more you see, the more you experience, the more you learn, the better you get. Handicapping a Kentucky Derby with a horse in it that's only times is like trying to, draft a college football player with only 3 games in college to go on.
Right.
There's the body of work, the evidence is just not there. And you don't know, for example, with Just a Touch, you don't know what the upper limit is of his ability, because he's just now kind of figuring it out and seeing it, and he's just now improving. he could wind up being a Triple Crown winner. I mean, you don't know because he's got so few races to go on. But his last race, he was second behind Sierra Leone in the Bluegrass in Kentucky, about an hour from here in Lexington. Ran really well, and he's got a good tactical running style. He's got a great trainer in Brad Cox. He's a great pedigree. He's by Justify, the Triple Crown winner in 2018, who's become one of the top stallions in the world right now. So there's a lot to like about Just a Touch, including the price, because he'll be in the end to probably 10 to 12 to 1 ballpark.
All right, sir. Last one for me. You're going to be in front of 125,000 people there, all over TV and whatever. Have you got the suit all dialed up? I mean, I can't wait to see you on the coverage and all this other stuff. How long does it take you to get like all dolled up and everything? Because you look amazing now, but like it's Saturday, it's the Derby, right? You're going to be all, pimped up, a nice suit and everything.
To the extent I'm ever dolled up, Dave.
Come on. Of
no,
course.
I wait. This is like a funny gag between me and Jerry Bailey, because Jerry, the jockey that I work with on a regular basis, right, is my best friend. Maybe one of the greatest jockeys of all time. Jerry's like type A, hyper prepared. He's getting dressed real early and ready to roll. And I'm waiting until the last possible minute.
That's me and you.
That sounds
like you.
So one of my first Kentucky Derbies, right? For NBC, I got my clothes in the back of the trailer here. We got a trailer sitting right there, as you can see, right?
Yeah,
okay,
nice.
All right. So I kind of miscalculated, and I waited a little too long to get dressed, and suddenly this big production meeting breaks out in the trailer, and I got to get dressed in the room at the end of the trailer. And right after the production meeting, you got to be on the set. So I got to get dressed, and there is a guy. He's in a coat and tie. I said, I hope you don't mind. I got to change clothes back here. So kind of pushed the door to a little bit, and I stripped down to my underwear, and I changed clothes and all that, in front of this guy, and I get dressed, and so the meeting's over, and I'm ready, and the guy comes up to me and he says, "Randy Moss." I said, "Yes." "Ken Shanzer, president, NBC Sports."
Oh, no. Hi, boss.
Yep.
How are you?
I dropped trowel in front of the president of NBC Sports on one of my first Kentucky Derbies.
That's phenomenal. All right, last question. Everybody, we talked about this.
Yeah.
Are you
so
pro?
If I get dolled up, it's like the last minute.
All right.
I love it.
Let you go on this. Pro or con mint julep? Is it a good drink, or is it just a drink that's at the Derby?
You ever drank lighter fluid?
Thank you. Thank you.
It's god awful.
Man,
god awful. Give me a margarita, a good quality tequila margarita any day than that mint julep crap.
You are the
people feel like they have to try it because it's tradition, but typically 90% of them. Have you ever tried a mint julep? Yeah, one time. Never again. Yeah, that's kind of the way it goes.
Thank you.
Sorry,
Randy.
Sorry, Kentuckians.
Have a phenomenal week. Have a great weekend. Have a great call. Thank you for doing this. We really appreciate it. I know how busy you are this week, but we really appreciate your time.
Hey, guys. Hey, it was my pleasure to meet you guys in Las Vegas, and especially now. So take care.
Thank you, my friend.
We'll
Thank
be
you. That's
talking
Randy
again
Moss.
soon.
Absolutely.
Have a good day.
That's Randy Moss from NBC Sports joining us here on the Bostonian versus the Book. Great to get him on the program. How about that? Randy Moss hates mint juleps. Wow.
I mean, he's not wrong.
I mean, it's not lighter fluid. I can drink it. It's not that bad. I like whiskey, though. I'm a whiskey guy.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I'm going to have to try it, I guess. But God, I love that guy. He's so honest. He's so fun. He had to get dressed in front of the president.
That's phenomenal. What a